Jagex just dropped a huge blog post showing us all of the new items coming into the game with sailing. And I have a feeling that these new resource items are going to shake up the economy in a major way. Today, I'll be breaking down the full blog post and share my thoughts on how the future economy is likely going to shift based on the introduction of these new items. If you guys like the blog post analysis content, let me know in the comment section below. If we can get 200 likes on this video, I'll keep you guys updated with future posts about sailing. Before we hop into it, keep in mind that a lot of these items on the blog post are being pulled. Nothing is official in the game yet, so keep that in mind. Jagex just released a massive blog post, and in the blog post, it details all of the new resources that are coming with sailing, as well as some details on how the skilling will work. Right off the bat, you can see there is a ton of material here in the contents. We've got a bunch of sections to break down, so let's get into it. The first section we have is woodcutting. Jagex plans to release 4 different kinds of logs: the Jatoba logs, camphor logs, ironwood logs, and rosewood logs. All of these logs will be used in the boat building aspect of the sailing update, and you'll notice here that all of these new collection methods offer unique XP rates. They also don't want to overshadow the current meta as far as XP goes, which is always a good thing. First off, we have the Jatoba logs, and these sort of look like a lower level log that are pretty much used for skilling only, as Jagex is saying that they're no good for boats overall, so they won't be used in the shipbuilding. This might be a decent option for some lower level skilling methods, such as fire making, which is noted down here. In addition, I think these are going to be found on the Great Conch, as Jagex states here that the logs will be found on the shores of the Great Conch, and the Great Conch is one of the starter sailing islands that you can get to, as far as I know. So this is likely to be a pretty common log and not going to be anything special or affect the current market. Moving on to camphor logs though, camphor logs get a little bit more interesting. That's because they're an excellent wood for constructing seaworthy vessels for mid-tier voyages. Jagex is specifically pointing out here that this will be a hardwood tree above mahogany. So we can expect that as you're leveling up through sailing, the camphor logs will be a stronger option compared to mahogany. It'll also be used in 3 skills: fire making, fletching, and construction, and will give slightly more XP an hour than mahogany trees, but will provide less logs per hour. I do think that in the long run, these camphor logs will be in a higher demand than mahogany logs in terms of sailing, but don't forget that the mahogany logs already have a market of their own in the construction skill for player-owned houses. So I don't think it's going to devalue mahogany logs completely. Expect to see camphor logs in the future as one of those mid-tier options for sailing. Moving on to the ironwood and rosewood logs. Now, these are just higher level tiered logs that are used in shipbuilding. Similar to the camphor log, they're going to give slightly more XP an hour than the camphor trees, but you're going to get less logs per hour. So how I think Jagex is planning this one up is these are going to be difficult items to actually collect. I have a feeling that they're going to be on like a faraway island where there's no bank. So running back and forth and collecting these logs is not going to be easy. But of course, that's going to make these logs pretty valuable themselves, as they're hard to collect and they're used at the highest tier of sailing. Just like camphor, ironwood and rosewood will have uses in the fire making, fletching, and construction skill, which is talked a little bit about later on. Now, I don't think the ironwood and rosewood logs will affect the existing economy that much, but I do think they will have a strong economy of their own due to how difficult these might be to collect. And next up, let's look at mining, and there was 2 things that really stuck out to me in the mining section here. Since there's some new ores coming to the game, the lead ore, which is an early game ship reinforcer, going to be used in sailing very commonly. We have the rubium ore, which tends to be an incendiary cannonball, which is very interesting, and it's perfect for tactical warfare on the seas. Pretty cool. We also have the nickel ore as well. It's gathered in a very similar method to the Motherlode mine, and it's actually combined with copper, which I thought was interesting. We'll touch on that in a minute, but it's a key component in creating an advanced material for the ship. Let's start with reviewing lead first. So lead is interesting because it provides slightly higher XP per hour compared to iron, but is meant to serve as this iron alternative for shipbuilding. My guess is lead is probably slightly stronger in the early game than just using iron for reinforcing your ship, and due to that, it might have some use, but I think in the long run, this will not threaten the iron economy at all. Iron has so many uses in game and is one of the highest traded items, so I can't really see lead coming in with this one specific use and really affecting that market too much. Rubium is definitely an interesting item, but since we're only really focused on the economic part of this update, I'm not going to focus too much here because I don't really think it affects existing markets that much. Now, nickel is very interesting. So nickel requires 74 mining to collect and is mined very similarly to how you mine at the Motherlode mine. It's an AFK but lower XP rate per hour, but an interesting little note that Jagex put in is it should be profitable. Now, because of that, that makes me think that this Cupro Nickel bar is actually something that's going to really be used in the sailing update, and it requires 2 copper ore to craft. So obviously copper is a very common item in game and already has a massive existing market, but if this copper nickel bar becomes an end game item, then I really do think the copper market will increase, at least in the short term, as when sailing releases, it's going to be massive. We can expect in the long run for things to balance out, but I wouldn't be surprised if copper ore went up 10 to 20% in the early stages of the sailing update. There are a ton of changes coming with fishing as well, and for some reason, I'm really nostalgic about fishing in old school RuneScape, so I love that they're adding more fish options. We're going to cover these more closely later in the cooking section, because that's really where we'll learn about the uses of these items. There are some new changes coming to the hunter skill as well. Jagex wants to add a new hunting monster, the crab, and crabs will actually hunt in a little bit different of a way than the current hunting monsters do, where it's actually a predictable timing when you hunt them. Since we're focused on the economic side, the only thing that really sticks out to me here is the rainbow crabs. That will come into play later. Each crab that you catch can be converted to crab meat of that specific crab type. These are used in herb lore and cooking recipes later on. There's also new crops and coral farming coming, which is going to be interesting. I looked through everything here and didn't see anything that jumped out to me immediately about these items being added. But one thing that I did focus on was some of the ingredients you'd need to protect your farm patch, and that is the white berries and dragon fruit. To protect a camphor seed tree from rotting, you're going to need 10 white berries, and for a rosewood seed, you're going to need 8 dragon fruits, which is actually pretty expensive. I think it's like 10k to ensure your patch, but I could see a major increase for demand on the dragon fruits as rosewoods come into the game. Also, there'll be a clear demand increase in the white berries as well, protecting camphor trees. Big updates to crafting and fletching, guys. One thing that I noticed right off the bat is that flax was an item on here, and flax can now be spun into linen yarn, and that is different than how flax is currently spun into a bowstring. If flax ends up getting another use, then I'd expect the overall supply of bowstrings to go down, because people will start to spin linen yarn instead of a bowstring using flax, and the overall supply of bowstrings will go down because less people are doing it. This could lead to a pretty strong rebound in the bowstring price in the long term, so I'll be keeping my eye out for that. In addition, Jagex wants to add some new blowpipes to the game as well, with the camphor, ironwood, and rosewood blowpipes, which is a pretty cool update. I'd expect demand for mithril darts, adamant darts to increase, as the max you can use is addy darts and mithril darts in these blowpipes. Most likely Iron Man content and not really endgame content, but still interesting nonetheless, and will likely have at least a slight effect on the dart market. There is a lot being introduced with the new herb lore and cooking changes, so I want to make sure I cover it in detail. Now, for herb lore, there is a bunch of new potions coming into the game, most that are crafted with ingredients that are coming from sailing in general. For example, like the elkhorn coral and the crab paste to make the anti-odor salt. Those are all from the new update. But one that is not completely from the new update is the extended stamina potions. Now, these caught my eye immediately because the extended stamina potion lasts for 4 minutes, which is a lot longer than the regular stamina potion. I think that lasts like 2 minutes. So this would be used in bosses and raids as as people would pre-pot outside the raid. I expect that these extended stamina potions will be worth a lot of money because the Marlin scales also require a high level of fishing to collect, and stamina potions are already decently expensive. I think they sit around 7.2 to 7.3k each, and since stamina potions are going to be used in creating the extended stamina potion, there is no doubt in my mind that these will go up in price if they are introduced to the game. Cooking has some pretty crazy changes too, with some of the endgame fish being added. The first one that I think is worth pointing out is the halibut. So the halibut is going to be used as a combo food, very similar to a karambuan, but you'll notice that it actually has +2 HP healed over the karambuan. Karambuans heal 18 HP, halibuts heal 20 HP. So if halibuts get introduced, they will become the new best in slot combo food. This will devalue the karambuan market pretty substantially, as in PvP, people are going to want the best food option for combo eating, and the halibut will be the new best in slot, so you can say goodbye to your karambuan prices. We also have the bluefin tuna as another option being proposed, which restores 5 prayer points and also heals 22 HP. This is pretty crazy because a manta ray, a dark crab, those both heal 22 HP, and if the bluefin tuna come into the game, then why would people not take a bluefin tuna that gives you the extra 5 prayer points alongside with the same amount of HP as a manta ray? And you'll likely see the market on manta rays and dark crabs go down pretty significantly if this comes to the game. The one food that's going to devalue all the rest is the marlin. The marlin requires 93 cooking to cook, but will become the single highest healing item in the game with 24 HP healed. So this will be powerful in PvM and PvP alike. But keep in mind that a lot of the times people bring Ceradomin brews, as it has a higher healing potential overall for one inventory slot. But if you need to eat and get HP fast, the marlin is not a bad option. You can expect a lot of the existing food prices to crash a little bit if the marlin comes into the game. So manta rays, sharks, anything underneath that should drop a bit in GP. Moving on to smithing and construction, there's a lot to talk about here as well. And with the new cannonballs and keel hull parts coming to the game, there is a lot to be crafted. The first thing I noticed is how much freaking metal is going to be used in this new sailing update. You can see for all of these lead bars, cupronickel bars, and all of the keel parts as well. On top of that, the cannonballs, like there's going to be a lot of ore needing to be mined for all of this to happen. If supply can't keep up with the demand, which it likely won't in the beginning of sailing, then we're going to see a large price increase across the ore market. I'm thinking specifically for things like mithril, adamant, rune, those types of items that, yes, they are common enough, but at the same time, if there is a large demand increase quickly, then these will go up in price. The last section getting some economic change is construction, and construction will be used to craft new ship components to build your ship. As I noted a little bit earlier in this video though, you'll notice here that the wood through mahogany tier will still have a use in sailing, so the existing log market will not completely be devalued. In addition, the new planks that are being introduced have no use in the POH, and safely say that that market is going to remain stable. One other thing that I wanted to point out here is how much it costs to make these camphor planks, rosewood planks, and ironwood planks. These cost a ton. To make one camphor plank, it costs 2.5k. To make a rosewood plank, 7.5k. This was really interesting to me, and I was happy to see it. I love when Jagex adds gold sinks to the game that are directly outside of the Grand Exchange, so this was nice to see. What do you guys think of this blog post? Are you going to vote yes or no on most of the stuff coming with this update? Personally, I am more in favor of these changes, as I think it's going to be better for the game long term and give players new ways to make GP in the game or train their skills. If you want to know what I'm specifically investing in for the sailing update, be sure to check out my Patreon page. There is a link in the description below for that. I release an item investment newsletter there covering all my thoughts every single month. So if you're more of a long-term investor in game, be sure to check that out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.